Prisoner of Azkaban is everyone's favorite Harry Potter book. Everyone knows it. The best film, the darkest turn, the one where things finally get serious, the one with the twist. I went back through every chapter this week, not looking for the twist, looking for what everyone is still missing, and here's what I found. Prisoner of Azkaban is not a story about a wrongful imprisonment that gets corrected. It is a story about a justice system so broken that correcting the wrongful imprisonment is impossible even after the truth is known. The innocent man escapes on a hippogriff because the system cannot save him, and the book treats this as an acceptable outcome. But before I show you 6 things Prisoner of Azkaban is actually about, there is one detail I need you to hold on to. It appears in the first chapter, and it is never followed up on. When Peter Pettigrew detonated a street in Muggle London and killed 12 people to fake his own death, the Ministry of Magic arrived, looked at the surviving witnesses and obliviated them. They were told it was a gas leak. Nobody interviewed them. Nobody collected their memories as evidence. Nobody investigated whether the man standing in the street laughing was actually the one who caused the explosion, or whether there might be another explanation. 12 people died. The survivors had their memories wiped. And the man accused of killing them was sent directly to Azkaban without a single question. We will get to those 12 people. But 5 others come first. Sirius Black was never tried. Sirius Black was sentenced without a trial to life imprisonment in Azkaban for betraying James and Lily Potter to Lord Voldemort and murdering Peter Pettigrew and 12 Muggles. Not convicted, not found guilty, sentenced. The distinction is not technical. It is the difference between justice and administration. Barty Crouch Senior sentenced Sirius Black to Azkaban without a trial. During the First Wizarding War, Crouch had developed a reputation for sending those suspected of being Death Eaters to Azkaban without trials, and this made him popular with the wizarding public because they saw it as a fast and effective way to clean up society. Read that sentence again. Popular. Fast and effective. The ministry official who sentenced an innocent man to 12 years of psychological torture was celebrated for his efficiency. He was considered the next Minister for Magic. The wizarding public applauded him for removing the need for evidence from the prosecution of war criminals. Sirius Black spent 12 years in solitary confinement in a prison guarded by creatures that feed on happiness. He retained his sanity by focusing on his innocence, which he described in the Shrieking Shack not as a happy thought, but as an obsession. It could not be detected by the Dementors because it was not happiness. It was the only thing he had left. When the truth finally comes out in the Shrieking Shack, it changes nothing. The Ministry refuses to believe it. Cornelius Fudge will not listen. Snape interrupts at the wrong moment, and by morning, a man who spent 12 years imprisoned for a crime he did not commit is a fugitive for the rest of his life. The system did not fail Sirius Black through error. It failed him through design. It was built to convict quickly, and it was praised for doing so. And Rowling puts that information in the book quietly, without outrage, as background detail about a man's career. Because in this world, it is background detail. Now here's what Peter Pettigrew actually did before he disappeared. He confronted Sirius on a Muggle street. He shouted loudly enough for witnesses to hear that Sirius had betrayed the Potters. Then he cast a blasting curse behind his own back, killed 12 people who had nothing to do with any of it, severed his own finger and transformed into a rat while everyone was looking at the crater he had created. 12 Muggles died because Peter Pettigrew needed a distraction. The surviving witnesses were obliviated and told it was a gas leak. Nobody in the wizarding world ever acknowledged that 12 Muggle civilians were killed in the opening moves of Pettigrew's escape. Nobody held a trial to establish what had actually happened. Nobody checked whether the finger left behind matched the body of a man who had supposedly been incinerated. Nobody asked why the only surviving remains of Peter Pettigrew was a single finger on a street with 12 other dead people. If anyone had checked one of those things, Sirius Black would have been free within a week. The evidence required to exonerate him was always available. Nobody looked for it because nobody needed to. They already had their conviction. Only a small fraction of people watching this have subscribed to Potter Files. If you want every video in this series going deeper into what the books actually say, subscribe now. We go deeper into the wizarding world than anyone else. Remus Lupin knew. Lupin confiscated the Marauder's map from Harry in Chapter 10 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. He takes it from Snape. He knows exactly what it is because he helped make it. And the Marauder's map shows the location and name of every living person on the Hogwarts grounds, including those who are in animagus form. The moment Lupin looked at the Marauder's map, he saw Peter Pettigrew's name moving around the school. In the Gryffindor common room, in Harry's dormitory, in Ron's bed in the form of a rat called Scabbers. He said nothing. Not to Dumbledore, not to the Ministry, not to Sirius, not to Harry, whose parents had been murdered in part because of Peter Pettigrew's betrayal. Lupin taught defense against the dark arts for an entire year, knowing that the man who had destroyed his closest friends' lives was sleeping in a student's bed 12 meters from a classroom he taught twice a week. He said nothing because he was afraid. Afraid of being disbelieved, afraid of losing his position, afraid of what it would mean to be a werewolf who had seen the dead man's name on a magical map and reported it to the Ministry of Magic. He was right to be afraid. The Ministry would not have believed him, but that does not mean he was not afraid when he should have been brave. Lupin tells Harry later that year that he is one of the bravest men he knows. He says this in the Shrieking Shack. Lupin confiscated the Marauder's map from Harry in Chapter 10 of Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. He takes it from Snape. He knows exactly what it is because he helped make it. And the Marauder's map shows the location and name of every living person on the Hogwarts grounds, including those who are in animagus form. The moment Lupin looked at the Marauder's map, he saw Peter Pettigrew's name moving around the school. In the Gryffindor common room, in Harry's dormitory, in Ron's bed in the form of a rat called Scabbers. He said nothing. Not to Dumbledore, not to the Ministry, not to Sirius, not to Harry, whose parents had been murdered in part because of Peter Pettigrew's betrayal. Lupin taught defense against the dark arts for an entire year, knowing that the man who had destroyed his closest friends' lives was sleeping in a student's bed 12 meters from a classroom he taught twice a week. He said nothing because he was afraid. Afraid of being disbelieved, afraid of losing his position, afraid of what it would mean to be a werewolf who had seen the dead man's name on a magical map and reported it to the Ministry of Magic. He was right to be afraid. The Ministry would not have believed him, but that does not mean he was not afraid when he should have been brave. Lupin tells Harry later that year that he is one of the bravest men he knows. He says this in the Shrieking Shack while Harry is holding Pettigrew at wand point. He says this to a 13-year-old boy who spent the year having Dementors force him to relive his mother's death because of the same man Lupin had been too frightened to report. Now here is the detail about Scabbers that most people never stop to think about. Ron Weasley was given Scabbers when he was 6 years old. Before that, Percy had him. Peter Pettigrew had been living as a rat in the Weasley family for at least 7 years before Harry Potter arrived at Hogwarts. He was there when Arthur Weasley came home from work at the Ministry. He was there during every family dinner, every holiday, every conversation. He heard everything. He watched everything. When Sirius broke out of Azkaban after seeing Pettigrew's photograph in the Daily Prophet, he was coming to Hogwarts to find a rat who was sleeping next to the son of the family that had unknowingly sheltered him for years, who was attending classes at the school, who was walking the same corridors as the boy whose parents he had helped destroy. Peter Pettigrew spent 12 years as a rat because staying as a rat meant nobody would ever look for him. And nobody ever did, until a cat did. Crookshanks knew from the beginning. The half-Kneazle that Hermione bought at Magical Menagerie in Diagon Alley recognized Pettigrew for what he was from the first day of term. He was never trying to eat Scabbers. He was trying to catch him. He cooperated with Sirius because Sirius was trying to do the same thing. 2 animals and 1 wrongfully convicted man spent an entire school year trying to expose the truth that 12 years of Ministry investigations had failed to find. The hero of Prisoner of Azkaban is a cat. Now here is what Dumbledore already knew. At the end of Prisoner of Azkaban, Dumbledore comes to the hospital wing where Harry and Hermione are lying after the chaos of the full moon. He looks at them. He says that more than one innocent life might be saved tonight if things are done correctly. He looks specifically at Hermione and her time turner. He says the words, "That is the real ending of Prisoner of Azkaban," not the hippogriff flying into the moonlight. The morning after, when everyone who knows the truth wakes up and nothing has changed. The HBO Harry Potter series premieres Christmas Day 2026. Showrunner Francesca Gardiner. The Emmy Award-winning writer from Succession, director Mark Mylod, who directed Succession and Game of Thrones. Producer David Heyman, who produced all 8 original Warner Brothers films. Executive producer J.K. Rowling with full creative oversight. The 2004 film directed by Alfonso Cuarón gave us a beautiful movie. Dark skies, moving trees. Michael Gambon replacing Richard Harris as Albus Dumbledore. It is the most visually distinctive of the 8 films, and it left out almost everything I just told you. The 12 Muggles who died on the street, the injustice that Barty Crouch Senior was celebrated for committing, Lupin knowing and saying nothing, Crookshanks as the actual detective, Dumbledore engineering an escape through a hospital room in 5 words. A 10-episode HBO season has no excuse to reduce this to the movie version. Prisoner of Azkaban is the book where Rowling first shows you that the Wizarding World's institutions are not good. They are not corrupted versions of good institutions. They are institutions that were built to prioritize speed and convenience over truth. And they function exactly as designed. Sirius Black is not an anomaly in the system. He is evidence that the system is working as intended. The boy who lived grew up in a world that would have let his godfather rot in Azkaban forever if a cat had not recognized a rat. That is what Prisoner of Azkaban is actually about.